Everybody, welcome. This is the morning meeting for Election Day 2025. Sean, Dan, and I will rapidly spin you through the whole thing and then eager to hear your thoughts. If you're here on the two-way platform, please raise your hand. Uh, I see you both are wearing outstanding costumes, not from Botany 500, not from Brooks Brothers, but from our friends at Fairway and Green. Sean, what do you got on today?
Oh, Mark, I've got the lovely vest. It's a windproof coating on the front, comfortable on the inside, perfect for a fall day. Or just jam it out.
All
And
right.
Trump's
and
billionaire
The
donors
club is
and
open.
Dan, you're wearing an outfit both handsome and healing because of your injury
Well,
over the weekend.
yeah, I hope so. But I got the Democratic blue on today, a nice quarter zip here with the morning meeting logo. So happy election day. Always
Happy
exciting.
Election Day from the good folks at Fairway and Green, whose merchandise you can purchase with or without logos from the morning meeting. And from two-way, go to two-way.tv and slash Fairway and save, what is it, Sean, 5%?
No, Mark. No, it's not even 10. It's not 15. Mark, it's 20% if you use the code two-way-20.
Thanks to our friend at Fairway and Green. By the way, Fairway and Green sponsoring our special election night coverage tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Mark, I've got breaking news.
Yeah.
I have breaking news. It's not 20. It's 25% today. It is
Special,
25% today.
special for Election Day.
Yeah.
Go to
Extra
two-way.tv,
five.
two-way.tv slash Fairway. Again, also be sponsoring our programming tonight with the New York Post live, 8 o'clock here on the morning meeting. We'll talk more about that. All right. Let's before we get into business, let's talk about Vice President Cheney, who passed away, announced this morning. Badly misunderstood man, in my view. I've always enjoyed dealing with him during my career. Sean, here's the top of the statement from his family about his passing, 84 years old, two daughters, Liz and Mary, and of course his wife, Lynn. He died due to complications of pneumonia and cardiac and vascular disease. Sean, any memories you want to share of the vice president?
Well, two things. One, I'll just say, regardless of what you thought about Dick Cheney, the man loved this country and he served it admirably. I mean, from his youngest days as a congressman and then White House chief of staff to defense secretary and vice president, I don't think, regardless of his where you think he was politically, his love for this country is unquestioned. I will tell you one funny story. I underwent this long project when I was at the RNC to collect every Republican sign of every living candidate, president, vice president that was the Republican nominee. And I drove out to Cheney's house in McLean to give him the signs. And I thought, it was just one of these things where I go to the back door and they said he's watching television right over there, and he was just sitting there watching Ellen. And it was just the most surreal thing. You think you're coming to meet the vice, now the former vice president, and I walk into the back door of his house in McLean, and he's just sitting there watching Ellen in his living room, and he's just like, "Good to see you," and put the signs there, and also, and it was, I don't know, you have this buildup that this guy's going to be watching CNN and on a computer doing something, and he's just in the living room watching Ellen.
Dan, did you know Vice President Cheney?
No, I never had the privilege of meeting him, but he to me he embodied the establishment and back in an era when people were proud to serve and kind of stay in and out of Washington and work in various administrations and council people, and it just definitely seems like a bygone era today.
Yeah.
But he was a good person, everybody said, even though had
Yeah.
differences.
Yeah, and was painted as Darth Vader by some. I'll just say a couple things. I interviewed him many times, not many, but more than a few. Once, a quarter century ago, on a show just like this, a streaming video show produced with the New York Times called Political Points, and we interviewed him in Florida while he was running for vice president in 2000, and incredibly genial, and we talked a lot about. In fact, he was the youngest White House chief of staff in history. And then I interviewed him for a book I wrote, and he's a villain for the left, and then certainly a villain for a lot of MAGA because he's seen as a neocon. He actually, people always say like, who's like Trump? In some ways, he was more like Trump, particularly as it related to the media than almost anybody I know. In three ways. First of all, he saw how liberally biased the media was, and he really worked to put it out. He had no patience for the incompetence in the media. He famously would only do Tim Russert on Sundays because he said to Mary Madeline, his communications director, I'm just not going to get up early on Sunday to do a show where they're going to ask me a bunch of dumb questions. Only do research. And then when I interviewed him for my book, and this is why he's like Trump, he was impervious to criticism from the press. He just didn't care. Even more than Trump in some ways, just did not care. And so when I interviewed from the book, he said that he always would listen to Imus in the morning while he shaved. While he shaved, and one day he's listening to Imus and the water's running while he's filling the sink and he can't really hear. But Imus is making fun of somebody, calling him pork chop over and over. He just keeps referring to pork chop and he's criticizing pork chop. And then Cheney says, suddenly I realize he's talking about me. I'm pork chop. But I laughed like hell because I thought when you start your day watching Imus, there isn't anything that can be said about you during the day that's as bad as what you can hear first thing in the morning when you've got Imus on at 6 o'clock. And that really empowered him, particularly during the Gulf War when he faced so much criticism. He just didn't care. And as we all know, there's so many politicians who care a lot. All right, forward looking. Who will speak at his funeral? Besides, I'm sure President Bush will. I'm sure his daughter will. Liz, pretty sure. Sean, who will appear? Who will speak? Will all the former presidents go? I don't think President Trump will go. Would be my guess. But who would you imagine would be there speaking?
I'm racking my brain to see if there's a possible Democrat that would do it. I don't
If
know.
Joe Lieberman were alive, he would.
Lieberman might, yeah, obviously. That's what I'm saying. There's some people that were in the orbit. Obviously Rumsfeld's passed. I don't know. I mean, I think that the kind of the orbit that Dan describes has left the building. And so I don't know. I obviously former President Bush, I think his family and that might
All
be
right. Dan,
Maybe Colin
any
Powell.
guesses?
Colin Powell's
Colin
passed.
Powell.
Colin Powell's passed away.
Oh, that's right.
I'll tell you one person I think will speak who I just saw on CNN. Pete Williams, the longtime NBC News correspondent, like Cheney from Wyoming, was his communications director, assistant secretary of defense for public affairs when he was Pentagon secretary. They were extremely close, and part of why Cheney pushed to lay off banning gays in the military was because of Pete Williams. And one of my other memories of Cheney was the day he kind of leaned into saying gays in the military was not an issue he was going to pursue. He didn't really think it was an important thing. He said it was hugely controversial, and he'd done it at a hearing, and then he raced into an elevator to avoid the press with his security team. And I slipped onto the elevator, and I had four floors on the elevator with a camera crew asking him about it, and he just stared straight ahead. He didn't respond. The camera was right in his face. And later his team told me that he found it extremely uncomfortable to pretend I wasn't there. But that's basically what he did. All
Well,
right.
so
Mark, I want to say in the
beyond-
chat, Condoleezza Rice may speak.
Yeah,
That'd be an
yeah.
interesting one.
That's a good guess.
That's a good guess. Yeah. Beyond that, though, I wonder to your point about not just speaking, but I think obviously President Bush would go. But I do wonder, does Clinton?
I think Gore. I think
the
Gore will
Clintons
go.
will be there.
I think Gore will go. I think Quayle will go. I think Biden will go. I think all the
All
former
VPs,
all
yeah,
the
I mean,
VPs will go.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Clintons.
I don't know. I don't think Biden can make the trip. I mean, I honestly, I wonder if that's.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. In a moment, we'll get to the day book and then all your questions after we run through
Will
some
JD
topics.
Vance go?
Yes. No, he's got a scheduling conflict that day. Raise your hand if you want to get in the conversation. Sponsor today, friends at Cozy Earth. And Black Friday comes early. If you're interested in some Cozy Earth bedding, shirts, pants, now's the time, because if you use the code MARK on top of the site-wide sale that's going on, you get 40% off. This won't last long. So act right now. Start your holiday shopping early. 40% off. Go to cozyearth.com, promo code MARK for 40% off the bamboo sheets, the bubble cuddle blanket. Get 2 bubble cuddle blankets. Give one to your parents, one to your in-laws, for example. And also buy yourself some pants. Now's the time. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Yeah.
Mark, you said it before. You brought up the joggers. I did it. I took your suggestion. Those bamboo joggers, I could possibly never take them off. And I did get the if you get like a good sleep mask, the bamboo sleep mask, I'm telling you, loving it.
The other day I was wearing my joggers. I wore them all day, and then I got home and it was time to go to sleep. I just left them on. There's no reason to change out of them because they're just that comfortable. I know, Dan. I wore them on the subway and then I slept in them.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Okay, good, great. I
Yeah,
was just
yeah. But
wondering about that. All
I
right.
changed the sheets the next day. Anyway, go to cozyearth.com, promo code Mark, 40% off. All right. In the day book today, the president's got no public events, but he's pretty interested in the midterm. So you can bet he'll be asking for the exit polls all day. By the way, there is an exit poll consortium. They kind of merged the two previous consortiums. So all the data you'll see for the marquee races, New York and New Jersey, Virginia. It's all one consortium. So don't call me all day and ask me for the exit polls. Just don't call me. When I get them, I'll post them. Thank you very much for your attention to that matter. Caroline Levitt's briefing at 1 o'clock. Sean, say you were Caroline Levitt and you got this question at the briefing today. What is the president's point of view about Ben Shapiro's criticism of Tucker Carlson?
boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys. All right.
That's
Don't
a
know
good
what
one.
JD Vance is doing today. Mike Johnson, usual 10 o'clock press conference. The House Republican Conference is having a virtual meeting at 11:30. Don't know that they've gathered as a group in a while. That'll be interesting. Once again, the Senate's going to vote on a CR at 11:30 also. That no one expects it to pass. It's the weekly lunches today for the Senate
It's going
and
to get interesting today.
Democrat senators. And then dueling press conferences at 2 o'clock, right after the lunches. House and Republican and Democratic Senate. Supreme Court's hearing arguments at 10 and 11 today. Vice President Harris, 10 Eastern time tonight. Just as the returns are coming in, we'll be hosting another book event in Seattle this time on stage at the Seattle's Benara Hall. I've not been there. Poll closings. Virginia opened at 6, closes at 7. These are all Eastern time. Jersey opened at 6, closes at 8. Pennsylvania opened at 7, closes at 8. New York City opened at 6, closes at 9. Wisconsin opened at 7, closes at 8 or 9, depending on the part of the state, I believe. Oh no, I'm sorry. Opened at 8 Eastern, closes at 9 Eastern. California opens at 10 Eastern, closes at 11 Eastern. All right. Election day. Election day. Mondami continues to churn out quality content, ladies and gentlemen, even as we head to the very last moment of the race. Here, and I'm warning you, if you're easily spellbound, like when you watch Fantasia, do you feel like you've taken a gummy, turn away. Here's a compelling Mondami video, number 108, please.
Trump's billionaire donors support Andrew Cuomo.
This is the
So it's
wrong
no
one.
surprise they're
Not
lining
this
up.
one.
He's
Not this
promising to
one. Not
defund
this
the
one.
police.
Take that
I'll
down.
work with police.
Take that down. Take that down. That's the wrong one. 108, please. 108. No, don't have it. Don't have 108. Just play it again. It's so good. Play it again. 108. All right. There are more negative ads on in New York City than has been reported. I've seen reported anywhere. But if you just watch TV, there's some negative Mondami ads that are quite good that are of unknown province, as best I can province. I don't know who's running them, but they're quite good. But nobody expects, everyone expects at this point, I would say, Mondami to win and probably the Democrats to win the governor's race. That's the conventional wisdom. That's where the polls are. Here's the president doing a tele-rally. Did one for New Jersey, one for Virginia last night. After this ends, I'll ask you to rate his performance on the lackadaisical scale, 0 being absolutely lackadaisical and 10 being on fire. Here's the president last night rallying the troops as only he can.
Now the 47th president of the United States, my good friend and the greatest president we've ever had, Donald J. Trump.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff. And I want to thank you, maybe more importantly, for doing such a great job as a congressman. We fought together to stop all those hundreds of windmills they wanted to build off the Jersey Shore. And we stopped it, you and I and a couple of other people. There weren't too many that helped us. And I just want to congratulate you on that. It would have been a disaster, just an absolute disaster, raise up the cost of energy more and would have been so bad. So I just want to thank Congressman Jeff Andrews, special man. And hello to the incredible patriots of the great state of New Jersey tomorrow is election day in your state, and you need to go out and vote for Jack Ciattarelli, who's a great guy, a friend of mine, a great guy, a very successful man who wants to put all of his efforts now into
All right.
really saving New Jersey.
Fired up and ready to
making it
go. I
great
won't even
again.
ask you to rate it. Dan, I'm surprised at how little is being made of the president and JD Vance failure to campaign in person in either state. What's the significance of that, and why wasn't that more covered?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're both blue states in the big picture, so you would just kind of assume to some extent that they would not necessarily help. But I am surprised about New Jersey because Trump did that rally there in 2024. I thought he might, or Vance might, because kind of the suburbs are where Vance, we all say, is stronger than Trump. And when he thinks about 2028, Vance's ability to kind of go into those areas is what makes him, I think, pretty formidable. So I am surprised, and I'm assuming, and Sean, you would know better than me, that the RNC tested both of them, and it had to be strong enough that they, or the RGA, to say, guys, you can't go in, either of you.
I think a little might be shutdown oriented, that it just they were concerned about imagery. I don't know that they care that much. I think, Dan, you're somewhat right. Where I thought it was more intriguing, where you could have been helpful, is to parachute in either one and done a big fundraiser, right? Gotten a little bit of attention, but kept it, a little less public, especially for JD. And that's where, I mean, he doesn't have the same, footprint that a president does going in. So I was surprised that JD didn't do something in person for either one of them.
I get
like
Virginia
in southern,
because
like
of
in
Doge and everything. And,
well, but how about in southwestern Virginia? Couldn't you have done some sort
Oh my
of
God.
rally?
No,
Yeah.
just
I think
go,
the prob-
but go into you go to. I mean, you could do the Trump Winery, for God's sakes. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a ton of events
Yeah.
there where people, it's accessible. I mean, you could still stay in Henrico County, where you pull a lot of people from Southwest. I mean, there's a plenty of places where
So,
people
Sean,
could have driven 90 minutes.
why people are saying to me, well, does this mean Vance isn't going to be able to campaign in the midterms in blue and purple states? Like,
No, so Virginia was a little unique. As you know, the president still hasn't endorsed Winsome Sears. There's a lot of baggage there. She made some comments after the 2020 election, and the president hasn't ever really forgiven her. And that kind of holds a lot back. I am surprised that there wasn't an effort via Youngkin to do something for the state party or the victory fund, that would have benefited all, or even if he'd really wanted to just screw her and say, hey, we'll do something for Miaris or for John Reed, the lieutenant governor candidate. But that I still, that to me is going to be a mystery. Why there wasn't a little bit more done, at least on the financial front.
right. It's very, very confusing. And again, I'm surprised not getting more comment. All right. Either of you want to say anything about the midterms while we just wait for the votes?
I think to me
about today, rather.
The takeaway tomorrow is all going to be about the margin, right? So tonight should be a win for Democrats, by all accounts. And so the question is, one, does Mondami win big in New York? Meaning, is that really or is the combined vote between Sliwa and Cuomo enough that denies him a majority? So it says, hey, he won, but he's not the majority view of where we are as a city. And then in Virginia and New Jersey, I think it's going to be one, does Virginia votes in threes. And so if I think Miaris is obviously the strongest one to hold back right now, but is the margin wide enough there? And in New Jersey, is it within, a hair here and there? That's to me the big story coming out tomorrow. Is this a big decisive win for Democrats, or do they squeak something out potentially?
Dan.
Yeah, I would just add the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I think the Trump people have put energy behind the scenes into that. And, some people think PA's drifting a little bit more towards Ohio type of an electorate. If Democrats hold those seats, it's also good news for Josh Shapiro.
Yeah. I'll say respectfully, I couldn't care less about the margins, because so much can affect him, unless it's massive.
Look, Mark, I don't disagree. I just want to be clear. Like I've said this before, I'll say it again. Even if we Republicans sweep tonight, right? Special elections, and I put off-year elections in the same bucket, are not, every election has a lesson learned. How did your ground game work? What was your turnout? But candidates mattered. And the bottom line is, in Virginia, our money was half the amount. Winsome didn't raise what she should have raised. I mean, there's a lot of factors. But so should you learn lessons? Yes. But is there any big lesson for the midterms? Probably not.
Yeah, I agree with that. And in terms of candidate quality trumps everything, right? So she was a bad candidate. But I do wonder, Sean, whether, and then Dan, whether there's a caution for Republicans. To me, the caution for Democrats is, as unpopular as Trump is, these races were, competitive. I mean, we'll see what the final margins are, but it wasn't like a collapse. It wasn't like and the Democratic candidates didn't perform particularly well. But money, California, Republicans didn't raise money. Virginia, they didn't raise money. They're being outspent in New Jersey too. They're the incumbent party. They wanted to try to make these races competitive. If you look at the early fundraising in some of the competitive races, Democrats are doing quite well for the out party. So what explains that, John? Isn't that a worry for the Republicans going into
It's a huge worry. So in Virginia, we don't have limits. You can take corporate money.
What explains the incumbent party being so badly outraised?
I think two things. One, it just shows that Trump, both in terms of turnout and money, is people don't get as motivated if it's not him. And that's the number that's been the takeaway for the last 8 years. But they're not good. I mean, I hate to say this on a public thing. Do you realize not one of the candidates in Virginia ever reached out, asked for money? Not one.
Ask you for money.
Not one, no.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've got a lot of buddies that are legacy donors, that are 4-digit check givers, say the same exact thing.
But where's James Blair, the RGA, the RNC? Like, where's the machine that's supposed to be able to raise a lot of money? And I go back to California.
That's just not what they do. I mean, they'll kick your butt, but they're not going to do it for you. That's just not.
Well, I think what they're raising money for is Trump's accounts. I mean, that's the thing.
But what are they spending that on? He's not running.
Well, that's the library.
The RNC and others dumped $3 million into last minute 72 hours get out the vote efforts. But the bottom line is, these warning signs, you can't. Late money in a campaign is not good money. I mean, you want that money in early fall so you can put it on the ground, put it up. The warning signs have been there the whole time.
And I mean, Democrats, and I've said this for a while, like we don't have a huge money problem, except on the soft side. That I worry about in the long run is potentially a problem. But I mean, you look at Kamala Harris, like she didn't have any trouble raising money. There was no trouble. And I think the candidates, I think Winsome Sears is why people never thought she was going to win. So you didn't fear upsetting Glenn Youngkin by going and giving to the Democrat, because you just thought the Spamberger, is going to win. And in California, I think, look, I think the Trump people probably think every single day, we have to keep the House, we have to keep the Senate. Everything else would be like a cherry on the top, but we don't care.
But then you got to raise money for the California ballot measure.
Because I think they feel like they're doing it elsewhere.
But I also
need a 1-seat majority.
Look, Mark, I got to tell you, I think there's a story there, and I mean, and I don't know the answer. But the problem, I wonder if the way I read California is, McCarthy came out and said, I'm going to raise $100 million, and if you're James Blair, do you say, okay, cool, you got this, and then you find out, oh, by the way, he didn't do what he said he was going to do. And this, to me, I mean, there's a part of which you can't do everything for everyone. When someone comes in, and I think they were overpromised and underdelivered in California.
But I think, though, Sean,
hold on 1 second. We'll keep talking, but dip into Morning Joe, please. Go ahead.
I think the thing is, if you look at what the White House did, once California got rolling, they immediately started going to other states, right? So they clearly made a decision. Do we invest in trying to stop California, or do we try to go and get Ohio and Florida and Missouri and Indiana and North Carolina and all these states? And they made the decision that they would rather go and just go on offense elsewhere. And I think it will end up probably working for them. So, I mean, I think every dollar for them is protecting Trump for that second half of his term.
All right, let's listen to Mondami on the set of Morning Joe at 30 Rock.
Breaks that he gave Elon Musk years ago when he was the governor of the state. That's actually more money than it would cost to make every bus free in New York City. So I've said clearly that I believe we should tax the top 1%, an additional 2%, that's New Yorkers making $1 million or more a year, and have the most profitable corporations pay the same tax rate they do at the top tier in New Jersey, what they would actually pay here in New York. These things together would pay for the entirety of our economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city. Because as you've said, the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has got, and this morning he started it by going on Fox and Friends, we're talking about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Stephen Miller. These are the architects, in many ways, of the crisis of authoritarianism that New Yorkers are facing.
Next to him.
And Andrew Cuomo is so unwilling to tax Donald Trump's billionaire donors because he knows those are the same ones whose checks that he's busy cashing trying to get back to City Hall.
So what do you say, though, on the question of affordability? Let's just take the $30 minimum wage. to the guy who owns the dry cleaner, the woman who owns the nail or hair salon, all these small businesses that you've grown up around and see on your block all the time, say, I can't afford to pay people $30. I'm gonna have to either lay people off or close my business. How do you explain that?
Well, this would be phased in over a longer period of time for small businesses, as is typically done when you're increasing the minimum wage. And what we've heard in terms of concerns are similar ones we heard when we increased the minimum wage here in New York City before. What it comes back to is the fact that today, to live in this city, you have to already be earning $30 an hour, pretty much. And so if we don't want to pay people that, we're going to lose New Yorkers. I met a man who was working for $11.99 outside of Elmhurst Hospital. He told me—
Shutdown. I made a list this morning of reasons to think the shutdown could end this week. Concerns over the SNAP payments, which even though the administration said they'll provide half, the Secretary of Agriculture says it'll take a long time to get those up and running. The travel industry, according to the Wall Street Journal, sent a letter to the White House saying you got to get travel back going because it's costing us business. Both sides claim the other side will cave because of Election Day, which I find kind of humorous because I see no connection between the election and ending it. And then, of course, there's this bipartisan group of senators who are talking to try to get it done. Reasons why it may not be over. It's still complex. There can be a desire for a deal, but trying to figure out how to get a deal is tough. There's still divisions within both parties. Healthcare is involved. That's always complicated. And both sides continue to see reason to keep going, and nothing's decided till everything's decided. But breaking news this morning, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma says this thing's about to end on CNBC.
And is that, Becky, we're going to probably start negotiations tomorrow with the Democrats claiming victory or claiming the higher road. I don't know what they're going to say. I can't discuss what or can't predict what they're going to say. But either way, we'll probably have the vote in the Senate either tomorrow night or Thursday. Then the House has got to come back because we're going to have to make some changes to it. We've got to change the date, and there's discussions about maybe putting 3 appropriation bills on the CR2.
You think it's possible we could reopen the government this week then?
Yes, I think we'll be open by Sunday.
Sean, open by Sunday?
Yeah, just a little technicality. That would technically be next week. So he's, not to be picky, but no, it's not possible. The House has a 48-hour notice. So if you just start doing the timeline, and look, you brought this up before. This is all great in theory in the Senate where they're like highfalutin, and then they're like, we'll just do this, and then we'll send it over to the House. They'll do exactly what we say they'll do, and then that will be it, and then we'll all go and have
the House of Lords has spoken.
Yes, we have. Thank you. I appreciate you coming back into town to do what we tell you to do. I think this is the first fit of the fits and starts that we will see. But the contours of the deal that I read, that I think we've all seen now in the press, I think maybe that's the jumping off point. But I think even Susan Collins was like, yeah, how long the CR goes, because the appropriators they don't like the idea of usurping their power. So they don't want a longer CR, which I think most of the folks on the right are like, let's take the longer deal and lock in current spending. So I think, yes, it's a jumping off point.
But there's not agreement on that, as you know. Okay. Dan, there's not agreement. The point you just suggested is true. There's just not agreement amongst Republicans about how long the CR should be and whether it should include appropriations or not. Dan.
Yeah, I don't know what to think, because the leadership still of the Democratic parties, as I said yesterday, it's like we have public opinion on our side. They think they're winning. They're silent. The idea that the deal is there will be a vote in the Senate at some point, but no guarantee in the House. What I'm trying to think about is, how does Chuck Schumer go back to the base and Hakeem Jeffries, and what do they? I mean, you basically then you lost, like so you did all of this.
Right.
And which is what we always said, which is, how do they get out of this? And message to the base.
And they'll try to convince the base that it was a big victory, but the base is too smart.
Well, and by the way, Chuck Schumer did not endorse Mandani, right? So there's going to be agita on his left locally here. Yeah. And now he's going to have this of like, I got a bunch of moderates, which we've talked about, we always thought would happen, are starting to have these conversations to get out. I don't see it.
This entire thing feels like a Saturday Night Live skit to me, right? Yeah. Like, we are literally sitting here saying, after 35 days, you know what we could do? I have an idea. What if we reopen the government? We do a short-term deal. We give you a vote on healthcare, and then we'll pass, MilCon, transportation, veterans. and get some bills going. And everyone goes, that's a great idea. Why didn't we have come up with that 31 day? I mean, this is the same. I mean, we've been saying the same damn thing for 35 days, and suddenly somebody went, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we just do that?
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. Raise your hand if you want to in the conversation. I don't read the chat. I also don't really listen to the show, even when I'm talking. Did we say the promo code for Fairway and Green was election 25? I don't think we did.
No, you're right.
Promo code is election 25 for 25% off. Again, if you want a great looking gear like Dan's wearing, like Sean's wearing, vests, polos, quarter zips, go to Fairway and Green, go to twoway.tv/fairway and use the promo code election25 for 25% off. And again, you'll have that same opportunity tonight during our election coverage. Join us at 8 o'clock. More on that in a moment. We're not going to get to Teen Vogue firing its political team. Incredible sound bites from Nancy Pelosi and the first partner of California attacking Donald Trump in stark personal terms, or Scott Bessent's flip-flop about whether he's attending the Supreme Court. But there is one other topic, arguments tomorrow on the tariff case. But there is one other thing I want to get to. Tucker. Okay. All these articles about what's going on with Tucker, what's going on with Ben Shapiro, they mostly leave out the president and the vice president, who have been largely silent on this question of Tucker being criticized for interviewing Nick Fuentes and not pushing back, which is roiling. Here's a reminder. This is a year ago, a little over a year. This is Tucker at the Republican convention. Pretty good seat. He's sitting next to the president and in the box with the president, J.D. Vance, and the Speaker of the House, Tucker Carlson, ladies and gentlemen. Very senior, very close. There's Byron Donalds also there. Sorry, he was sitting back, but Byron Donalds there too. Sean, I asked you earlier what Caroline would say at the briefing, or might say at the briefing, but where do you think the president and the vice president are on this fight in their heads? Because presumably eventually they'll be asked about it.
So I actually don't think that that's true. I mean, I asked after our show yesterday, I reached out to a couple of people that are pretty movement guys and asked the same question. Who is this a big deal among? What's the thing? And the two answers that I got back consistently were people who really care about Israel and younger people. And I said, okay, because I literally, I think that there is almost a small segment of MAGA that's having this, and then the media. I don't think that it's the comment that I saw from Shapiro was a tweet that said no on this and that. Like, I got to be honest with you. This is not, but if this didn't come up if you didn't bring it up, all right, Haley's saying no in the chat. I do read it. I've talked to a lot of people, and I think it depends on who you are, whether it matters.
Dan.
I think it's a big deal, and I think it's dominating stuff, and I think it's what we've talked about for the last few months, which is Israel and Palestine is not just a democratic problem. I mean, I've said this for months. Where is J.D. Vance going to come down on this? I would imagine Trump will have a press conference in the next usually after the election, the president says something, and Trump usually tries to go set the narrative. So he'll call into Fox and Friends tomorrow morning. He's going to do something to try to, especially if Democrats win, either hammer Mamdani or whatever. He is going to get asked about this. And I think J.D. Vance will get asked about this. And I don't think it's black and white. Sean, you know this. J.D. doesn't want to offend young MAGA, and he doesn't want to offend the pro-Israel crowd of the party. They're both influential for their own reasons. So how do you finesse this?
So let me ask you this, Dan. Do you think from where you read this, that this is a fight over Israel, or is it an issue about Tucker platforming Fuentes or something else?
I think it's all of the above. I think it is the fact that the young voters, first off, there's always been a portion of the anti-Israel that's kind of swirled out there. And Trump at times has been, again, good politicians want a big tent, and you find ways to send signals to different people, some of which you want under the radar and some of which you want very much on the radar. I think that it is a challenge with support for Israel. And should the U.S. be involved with money, with treasure, with time, with focus? And then there's the issue of free speech, of platforming, of not pushing back about
I think the last thing you said, the Israel thing is important, but just as I think you said yesterday, you've got a socialist mayor versus a pundit or a podcast host. Well, Tucker's more than that. as Dan and I said yesterday. You saw he sat with the president, the vice president, and the speaker of the House at the convention. And to me, when I talk to people and I hear prominent people like Ted Cruz, it's the party's drawing a line and saying we cannot elevate or tolerate people whose views are not just controversial, are not just out of the mainstream. They're disgusting. Views of people who are disgusting
that's what I think it's more
cannot
about.
be tolerated. But Donald Trump has for 10 years tolerated people whose views are disgusting.
This is it.
Okay. And I, to me, this is the first chapter of the post-Trump world. Because if Trump were still going to be running, Ted Cruz, I don't think, based on the evidence, would be saying, I'm drawing a line. This is disgusting. This is not acceptable. But he is now, and that's why it's so much pressure on JD, because JD's friends with everybody. JD's friends with everybody. JD previously, when those adult men had disgusting comments that were jokes, that I make a distinction between the jokes, still don't love it, obviously. And that's what JD said. These guys were joking around. He tried to pretend they were kids, they were adults. This is different. Nick Fuentes is serious as a heart attack. He's not joking around. And he is saying things that are disgusting. And Ted Cruz, to his credit, Ben Shapiro, to his credit, are saying, no, we do not tolerate that disgusting, not controversial, disgusting commentary. And that's, to me, why they're going to have to eventually speak to it.
But as you say, though, Trump's kind of political athlete mastery was, I go back to David Duke, right? When Trump was like,
sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. My earpiece.
I didn't really know who he was. And
that's not.
Well, no, but Sean, and then
Sean, he didn't repudiate him. He did.
He repudiated him over and
over again.
And then Nick Fuentes, oh, I didn't know he was coming to dinner, right? So Trump, again, it's good politics, Sean. It worked for Trump to dog whistle and then kind of duck. So everyone who needed to heard what they needed to hear. Is JD Vance that slick? Right?
Yeah.
This is going to be the issue. And Trump bullies people.
But you guys,
let me just clarify, David Duke. You're correct. You can find moments where Donald Trump offhandedly condemns David Duke and disavows David Duke. But he didn't do it every time, and he didn't do it in a way that was commensurate with what was required. But there's other difference, and this is where I'm agreeing with you. Trump didn't appear with David Duke. He didn't court David Duke's support. That's different than what Tucker's doing. Tucker's putting the guy on and celebrating him. And that's what Ted Cruz and others cannot tolerate.
But this is where I will say this politically, to your point about when Trump or JD gets asked, and to my response about with Caroline, I do think that there's a big difference. They're not invoking Trump, right? In the sense that the conversation isn't Tucker saying, where do you think Trump stands on Israel? Where do you they're having a discussion about Nick Fuentes' views and comments on history, on Stalin, on the Jews, on Israel, right? I don't think if I were advising the president or JD that I would say, hey, you should weigh in. I'd say you guys should say, look, those guys are having their own discussion. We got the business of the country to solve. That they should not.
So Mandani's friends that he was photographed with once, should Democrats in Congress just say, well, it's just the mayor of one city of this country?
Wait, there's a difference. Mandami's actually the guy. So Trump can and should have to answer for himself. And Mandami has to answer for who he's hanging around with.
But should Democratic members of Congress
Democrats have to answer for Mandani?
Sure, but there's a difference. You're asking, should Trump weigh in on Fuentes and Tucker versus Mandami actually getting photographed with a guy
Tucker's more
Tucker did a 3-hour interview with Fuentes, or 2-hour interview with Fuentes. He's more powerful than the mayor of New York. He's friends with the president.
Okay, so now it's a one-off of everybody. There's a different. Mandami's with a guy who is an unindicted co-conspirator of
Tucker's with the guy saying vile things and affecting the minds of our young men.
Okay. So now the president
not the president
for everybody
either.
That's been in his world.
Well, I will go
he
back
doesn't
to
have
Mark's
to, but he
famous
should.
phrase that the chair that the board of directors of MAGA, right? God rest his soul, Charlie Kirk. We said Tucker Carlson, right? Don Jr. It's not just anyone. It's a member of the board.
Yeah, and that's official, by the way. When I said it. All right, welcome in, everybody. As you come in, you unmute. Tell us where you are and what's on your mind, Laura. Today is your big debut, I believe, on the program. Is that correct?
Hi, everybody. Thank you
Is this your debut on the morning meeting?
It is
Well,
The View, although
yeah.
I've been listening since probably before the election.
Well, we're delighted to have you here. Tell us where you are and what's on your mind, and thank you for
Yeah.
being part of Two Way.
Thank you so much. Actually, yes, I signed up for the two-way platform yesterday to discuss the Tucker situation. So I'm in California,
Uh-huh.
I am an immigrant from Ukraine. I hit a whole bunch of your boxes. I am Jewish. I am a purple person. I voted for Trump for the first time, did not vote for him the last two times. I voted for Clinton and for Bush and for Obama the first time.
Wow.
So I can answer a lot of questions if you're interested in what is the purple, opinion of a purple person.
Laura, if you could pick the next president, who would you pick?
I don't know. Interesting you bring this up because for me, this is a line in the sand. I'm worried about what's going on on the left, the Mamdani thing, given the fact that I come from, former Soviet Union. And again, playing around in the sand of socialism, communism, it is scary. But the racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, things that Nick talks about, it is scarier. I'm a big fan of of Bill Maher, and he has been saying this. I'm like, Bill, bullshit. Sorry. About the fact that he could never be able to move to the right, although people have talked to him, based on his changing views about moving to the right. He said because he is more scared of the fringe right. And I didn't believe it until I started seeing this. Tucker is just too close to the people in charge. I don't care about crazy ideas on podcasts. I care about what the people that I am considering voting for next time think about this.
Yeah. Laura, you speak for tens of millions, and I know Sean and Dan both have questions for you. I'll just ask one more. If your choices next year for president were, or not next year, but in 2028, were Gavin Newsom and JD Vance, who would you vote
question.
Yeah, no, great question. I would say before last week, it would be JD.
But
now it's a question mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will tell you another reason why. Mark, you're actually the one who inspired me. And I watch you guys every morning. I tell my husband I'm getting my coffee and I'm going to spend my morning with the boys, although I'm usually on YouTube. I'm in California, 6 a.m. I actually woke up at 5:30 this morning to get on the call with y'all today.
The other thing that's happened, you were about to say that.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All good.
Yeah, no, I listened to the Turning Point event. It actually worried me too. And then this happened. As a Jewish person, and I recognize that we were in Ole Miss and, very Christian constituency and all of that. But between that, things that he said, and he had an opportunity, there were a number of questions about, Christianity, and one of them, and I hope he just missed it, sort of again implied that the Jews killed Jesus. And he did not take an opportunity to say anything about that. So, and I know it's tricky. I recognize it's very tricky, but the point is they need to have a talking points about this. If they did not think about this before, they need to think about it now. So now I'm not sure. I actually sent the link of that Turning Point event to my friends who are just like me and said, listen and weep. I don't know. I'm homeless again.
Yeah.
So
Laura, you speak for tens of millions, and I couldn't be more grateful to you. We couldn't be more grateful to you for getting up and coming on, because everything you said, so interesting. So thank you for that. Dan.
Yeah. So what is your thought about all the talk after Charlie Kirk about the radical left? Right. And now you're talking about the radical right, which is something that Democrats for 30 years have pulled their hair out over. So when you say now you're kind of reevaluating, you feel like you don't have a home, you're open to kind of hearing anew the Democratic Party, or you're still pretty turned off by them?
Right. So I am even more interesting than that. As an 18-year-old, my dad marched me to the post office or DMV and actually registered me for vote. So as an immigrant, legal immigrant, it was very important to us. And I was actually registered Democrat, even though voted both ends of the aisle. I was just too lazy to switch until the Kavanaugh hearing. That again, it was like purges in the Soviet Union in 1950s. Somebody said something and then it was true. So I actually came back. My husband wore a Nice during that time, came back and marched myself and changed my registration when we came back to the US. I was that flabbergasted. And then the left went even more crazy. And so I put this in the chat, and I think I've heard maybe Jillian Michaels say this. I saw the left implode from the inside. I am afraid that if the right does not deal with this, it will implode from the inside because of the crazies. There has to be a good way to sort of navigate this.
Thank you, Laura. Sean.
I guess what I'm a little confused by, and I just want you to expand on this, is that, and I'm not trying to, like, my current view is there are people on the fringe of the right. I wouldn't say the Republican Party, I'd say on the right, who are questioning our relationship with Israel. But I think that the 80% view of the Republican view is that Israel, for national security reasons, et cetera, we must support, and we continue to support. This president has probably been the most pro-Israel president in modern history, as acknowledged by the current prime minister. And then you have a very mainstream view in the Democratic Party that they are sympathetic to the Palestinian position, and I would argue a lot to the Hamas position. I don't know how if that's a top issue for you. To me, I get the concern about some in the right, but that's definitely not the mainstream view at all. Whereas in the Democratic Party, they don't condemn. I mean, they literally are endorsing Mandami. I mean, that to me tells you that this isn't even an apples and oranges discussion.
Yeah, no, great question. And I thought about this. So, yes, of course, I don't know, not every Jewish person is pro-Israel. I am pro-Israel, but this is not about Israel. And I know a lot of folks like yourself and others think that it is. And I genuinely think that it is. This is about America. I am America first. I was also terrified about what happened with bombing Iran, although I am glad at the end the president knew something I didn't. And I'm glad he did it. But I was terrified because I thought it was going to pull us into World War III. For a lot of even, I think, Jewish people, this is not about Israel at all. And I appreciate the president's support. This is a line in the sand for disgusting things that the party that I would want to support needs to take a stand on. I am fine. Tucker is just too close and too powerful to the leadership.
Yeah. Laura, do you still have relatives in Ukraine?
I don't. But my husband's first cousin, his wife is Ukrainian, not Jewish Ukrainian. She has family under bombs. It's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. Very grateful to you. I hope you'll come back regularly. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Very grateful to you. Thank you.
Sean, I got a question. You said 80% of the Republicans support Israel. I think philosophically, yes. Do you think 80% of the Republican Party would support money and arms to Israel for the next 5 years?
Money and arms, yeah. I don't think boots on the ground, but money and arms, sure.
Okay.
Rudy,
and it might be a little less. I mean, the further that you push it, I think you lose support. So, you might start to get into the 70s as you send more money. And it's probably a demographically older group. The younger, I think, folks on the right, the younger MAGA, the turning point, sort of, if we want to put that into a bucket, I would say is probably, maybe down in the 40s or something. It gets less so.
That's
Rudy,
why I asked. Yeah.
Rudy, welcome in. Thanks for being part of Two-Way. Tell folks where you are and what's on your mind for Sean and for Dan.
Hi, I'm in Madrid, Spain. Mark, thank you for the platform. I found you because I was a subscriber to Sean's channel, but gotta say, my favorite is Dan. Sometimes you have me screaming at my tablet, but my favorite is Dan. Something I'd like to point out, my family and I, we came to the U.S. when I was 7 years old. As you can hear, I have a perfect American accent, as does Zoran Mamdani. And then the other day, I heard him speak in this Ugandan accent. And where did that come from? Just this weird little thing I'd like to point out, that controversy that when he was eating rice with his hands, that's actually very common in the Philippines, but it's only poor Filipinos who do it. A well-to-do Filipino would not be caught dead eating rice with his hands. Upper-class Zoran Mamdani eating with his hands, and that fake Ugandan accent is the phoniest thing I've ever seen. And it just makes my head explode. Even more than the free buses and free this and free that, what makes my head explode is the guy is so phony and nobody cares.
Yeah. Dan.
You sound like Democrats talking about Donald Trump. You know, a guy who hangs out at Mar-a-Lago getting on a garbage truck, you know, with an orange jacket on, and turns around and goes to his clubs.
You know what?
I mean, I get it.
Can I say something about that, though?
Yeah.
When he did the McDonald's thing, and of course it was totally staged, every single detail of it, but there was one man who went through the drive-through, and he said, "Thank you for dealing with ordinary people."
What do you think the workers but all the people who love Mamdani say thank you for focusing on us?
And instantly, Donald Trump said, "You're not ordinary," and he meant it. I don't know if Zoran Mamdani means a single thing he says.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Rudy, I don't know if you speak for tens of millions, but you speak for a lot of people in New York City who are super worried about what you just raised, and yet his supporters think he's, you know, the most authentic guy in the world. So he's a bit of a puzzle. But I agree with you. There are reasons to be concerned about. He's a little slick.
Authenticity.
He's a little slick. Well, again, think about what you're saying. Your biggest criticism is what his supporters say is his biggest strength: authenticity. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see what he turns out to be. I find him to be hauntingly slick. Like, he's so good, it's almost unsettling to me how good he is. But again, that's why a lot of people like him, and that's why a lot of people who aren't his supporters but who are fans of his skills say he's really good, because he can come off as natural in any situation. And in my household, we eat rice with our hands. Makes me low class, I know, but it's just faster. You know, you don't have to pick anything up, just right in there. Rudy, thank you. Grateful to you. Appreciate you being here. All right, Joe, Rubik's Cube puzzle solver, brought a baby. Joe, welcome in. Unmute. Tell us about that little kid.
This is Charlie. She just turned 1 year old, guys.
Charlie, happy birthday. Man, Charlie's cute. Hi, Charlie. Charlie.
And Sean, I want to show you this book. This is Goodnight Red Sox.
Oh, that's wicked good.
Yeah.
Family's from Boston, but I'm from Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Welcome in.
Looks like Charlie's room behind you there. Looks like she owns that room.
I know. We're in the living room. It's chaotic. So many toys.
Joe, what's on your mind with Charlie today?
Well, so I want to talk about the Tucker stuff. I've been paying a lot of attention to it over the past 2 years of what Tucker does. Yeah, girl. And it's I agree with you, Mark. I agree with you, Mark, about what it is. I don't think it's as much about Israel as people think. I don't think it's platforming. I think that's kind of a straw man. It's more what Tucker does during the podcast. And he's had a history of this, bringing on the pro-Hitler historian, bringing on different people in the past where he just lets them talk, but doesn't ever push back against their crazy views. Even when Nick Fuentes brought up that Stalin was a good guy, he was like, "Oh, well, we'll talk about that later," and never brought it up again. So, I think that's my main issue with that. He kind of, and so I think that's why a lot of Republicans are so frustrated, because that interview showed exactly who and what Tucker does on a wide variety of situations.
Joe, are you a Trump supporter?
Yes. Would be a 3-time, but a 1-time because of my age.
Would you like to see the president and the vice president speak out on this issue, or it doesn't matter to you?
That's a great question. I definitely want them to denounce Nick Fuentes. I think they won't denounce Tucker, but they should denounce what he is doing with his interviews. Because it's Candace Owens does the same kind of thing where she just says, "Well, I'm just asking questions."
Yeah.
So Joe, can I ask this? How did you hear about what I'm trying to figure out Did you listen to the Tucker Fuentes interview? Did someone tell you about it? Did you see clips of it? How did it come into your orbit?
So I heard about it from, what was it? I think I heard about it from Twitter first, where I was looking at some clips, specifically the clip where he said, Christian Zionists, I don't like them more than anyone else. I heard about that, and then I decided to look more into it. However, I've watched a lot of Tucker's interviews in the past with controversial people, and so kind of that's how I heard about the Fuentes stuff. And then I think it wouldn't have been as big of an issue if Heritage Foundation did not mention anything. As soon as they mentioned that we stand by Tucker no matter what kind of a vibe, that's whenever it really blew up. And I think also you have the vision of him interviewing Nick Fuentes hardly ever pushed back. Meanwhile, he interviewed Ted Cruz and he pushed back in an incredible way.
Yeah. Joe,
and
you speak for tens of millions. I'm surprised you didn't criticize Tucker for not pushing back against me when I was on. Dan.
Yeah, that, by the way, that's still one of the great interviews that you did. That I think was October there or September.
Yeah,
I mean, I just find this so fascinating because I feel like part of the key to Trump's success was going into these places and befriending people that have this huge tent. And it's like you live by it, you die by it. And now I just find it so fascinating that now is the time to draw the line when there have been so many people on some of these podcasts. Because look, the way you get followers is to say something, you know, different and to be, you know, a shock jock, so to speak. And now this is where the line's getting drawn. I just find it remarkable.
Joe, is Charlie's name Charlie or something else?
It's Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie's
but she's a girl, even without any hair.
Yeah,
it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. Joe, grateful to you for coming on. And again, you speak for a lot of people, and I just so enjoyed how well reasoned you were, and calm about it, even though you're obviously passionate about what's at issue here. Charlie, have a great day. Happy birthday.
Bye.
All right. It's election day. I want to fill you in on our plans here. Sean, what do you have today?
Well, two things. On the show at 6, we've got Congressman Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. I talked to him both about some new information that's come out about Jim Comey's indictment, and then obviously the Jack Smith and Arctic Frost updates will be huge. And then Brent Buchanan, the president of Signal Polling, will join us to give us the latest on that. And then we will be live tonight on the channel at 8, breaking it all down and crossing our fingers for everyone here in Virginia.
All right. 6 o'clock tonight on Two Way Tonight. Two great guests, both deep New York roots also. Elizabeth Pipko, Republican strategist, Democratic strategist, Naomi Kunst will join me at 6 o'clock to tee up the evening, all the events of the day covered, and looking forward to primetime. Then at 7, Michael Moynihan on Moynihan Report, joined by Don Calloway, the CEO and founder of Pine Street Advisors. We'll talk about the future of the Democratic Party in the context of midterms. And then join us at 8 o'clock. Live from the New York Post newsroom, teaming up with our colleagues at the New York Post. Live coverage, 8 o'clock onward. We'll have lots of great guests. And of course, conversation like no other, election night like no other. An opportunity for you to be part of the night. Bring us what you're seeing where you live, what you're seeing online. We'll be flipping around on cable as we do and checking X and other social media platforms. And of course, including you in the conversation. If you want to be part of it, go to twoway.tv. You'll see a place to sign up there. Opportunity to log on to the platform. You can also watch it live or on demand on our platforms, on Two Way's YouTube channel and the New York Post channel, as well as our websites. As I said, great guests throughout the evening, but most importantly, we want to hear from you. And we'll be bringing you the exit polls. We'll bring you the live coverage of all the victory and concession speeches, and look forward to your participation. So please join us then. Dan, what are you up to?
I was just going to ask you to speak. If Mandani were to win, Hochul, Schumer, or Jeffries show up in Queens?
Great question.
No
Great
way.
Question.
Schumer can't show up. No way.
Schumer, no, but maybe. I bet.
He didn't endorse. I mean,
I bet
it's
Jeffries.
interesting.
I bet Jeffries does. I don't know about.
I'm going to join both of you guys tonight. I'm going to join Sean for a period,
Awesome.
and I'm going to join Mark Two Way and the New York Post tonight. So
awesome. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time, with a full wrap up of everything that happened. And of course, we'll also preview the Supreme Court hearing on the president's tariff policy. Also, a super important day for that. So, thank you all for watching. Thanks for being part of the two-way community. We'll see you later today. I'll see you at 6 and 8, and Sean at 8. Look forward to it. Have a great day, everybody.